What if I told you the most confident man in the room harbors a secret fear, and it's all about you? Sigma females, get ready to hear something you might not expect. The truth is, your power, your independence, your strength, it terrifies weak men. And it's not just their perception, it's the way it influences every interaction. Stick around because today we're uncovering why your energy sends them running, and why that's not just a problem for them, but an opportunity for you. So, who are Sigma females? If you've ever felt like you didn't fit the mold of the traditional female archetypes, like you're not the loud, attention-seeking, social butterfly type, you're not alone. Sigma females are different. You're self-reliant, independent, and totally in control of your own world. You don't need validation, and you certainly don't wait around for approval. You're not part of the mainstream. You're the quiet force that works from the shadows, quietly achieving greatness without needing to shout about it. But that's what makes you so powerful, and why, for some weak men, it's a threat they can't handle. Now let's get into why this makes weak men uncomfortable. In a world where everyone's trying to fit into some social mold, weak men feel threatened by your independence. They're raised on outdated ideas that women should be soft, dependent, and nurturing to a fault. The idea that a woman can exist without leaning on them for support, that's hard for them to process. And it's not just about being self-sufficient. It's your mindset. You don't need validation from others, and you're okay with standing alone, and that challenges their traditional idea of what a woman should be. So let's break this down. Here are 9 reasons why your power terrifies weak men. 1. You don't need them. Most men are used to being needed. From a young age, they are taught that their value is tied to how much they can provide, protect, and be depended upon. Society pushes this narrative, the man as the savior, the one people turn to when they need something. So, when they encounter a Sigma female, that script doesn't play out. Sigma females don't look for someone to fill a gap or validate their worth. They are already whole. This self-sufficiency is something weak men simply can't process because it challenges the very foundation of their identity. They expect women to rely on them in some way, even if it's just emotionally. But Sigma females don't seek validation from anyone. They aren't out there trying to fit into someone else's life. They're living their own life, on their own terms. That's where the discomfort starts. For weak men, the very presence of a woman who doesn't need them in any capacity, whether for attention, approval, or support, makes them feel unnecessary. It's like they no longer have a purpose in the interaction. Their value, the thing they base their self-esteem on, is threatened, and that's scary for them. The unpredictability of Sigma females is what rattles weak men the most. They can't anticipate your next move because you aren't tied to their expectations. You don't need them to be happy, to be successful, or to feel complete. And that uncertainty, that not knowing, is unsettling. Imagine being in a room full of people who need something from you. Your purpose is clear: to help, provide, support. Now, imagine you walk into that same room and there's one person who doesn't need anything. No one to impress, no one to win over, no one to fix. They just exist, confident in themselves, doing their own thing without needing you to play a role. That person is a Sigma female. Weak men don't know how to handle that. They're used to the dynamic of giving and taking, where their actions are rewarded with attention or affection. Sigma females break that pattern. You're unpredictable not because you're erratic, but because you can exist in the world without seeking external validation. And that's what makes you different. They're used to women who are conditioned to seek approval, to play the game of pleasing others, to keep up with the expectations that society sets. But Sigma females don't follow that script. They don't need men to feel good about themselves. They don't need a man to define their worth. They simply live their lives as they choose, unaffected by the judgments of others. And the moment they sense you're not looking for anything from them, it shifts the power dynamic in the room. When a man feels like he has no power to control a situation, he feels threatened. And weak men are terrified of losing control, so they either try to manipulate, undermine, or run. But Sigma females keep doing their own thing. That's why your independence is so powerful. It's not just that you don't need them, it's that your lack of need exposes their lack of value. And in their eyes, that's terrifying. Weak men feel lost when they can't offer anything of significance, and your self-sufficiency forces them to confront that uncomfortable truth. They have no place in your world unless you invite them in. And that, to them, feels like a threat to their very sense of self. Now, before we dive deeper, make sure to hit that like button if you find this topic intriguing. Let's continue. 2. Sigma females are comfortable alone. While other women might seek out relationships or constant companionship, Sigma females are okay flying solo. They don't rely on having someone by their side to feel validated, loved, or complete. In fact, Sigma females often find peace in solitude, where they can focus on their own growth, passions, and ambitions without external distractions. This ability to be alone without feeling lonely is a rare quality, and it's one that weak men find difficult to understand. Most men, especially those raised with traditional gender expectations, have been taught that a woman's value is often tied to her relationships, her romantic partner, her social circle, or the family roles she plays. So when a Sigma female comes along, someone who is independent and whole on her own, it challenges everything they've been conditioned to believe about women. Weak men have grown accustomed to women who lean on them for emotional support, companionship, and validation. It's almost like a built-in security blanket for them. They feel needed and wanted, which boosts their ego and sense of worth. But Sigma females don't play into this dynamic. They don't need a man to feel complete, and they don't crave constant attention or reassurance. This creates an underlying tension. Weak men often struggle with the idea that a woman can be happy and successful without their involvement. They don't know how to respond to someone who doesn't need them to feel secure. It rattles their sense of self, making them question their own role and importance. For Sigma females, being alone isn't a negative thing. It's a time to recharge, reflect, and continue building their own lives. They don't feel the need to fill every minute with social obligations or romantic entanglements. They understand that solitude is a space for self-discovery, growth, and independence, and that scares weak men because it forces them to confront something they're not comfortable with, the idea that someone can be truly happy on their own. Weak men often find it difficult to accept that someone like a Sigma female doesn't need them to feel fulfilled. They feel the pressure to prove their worth, to make themselves essential in the Sigma female's life. But Sigma females aren't looking for anyone to complete them. Their lives are already full, and they're not willing to settle or compromise their independence for the sake of someone else's ego. This level of self-sufficiency is not something they're used to encountering. It challenges their very perception of relationships and forces them to realize that companionship isn't a requirement for happiness or success. They feel threatened because they can't offer what a Sigma female already has: inner peace, confidence, and fulfillment without needing to lean on anyone else. When a man realizes that he's not needed, he often reacts in one of two ways. Either he tries to force his way into her life, or he steps back entirely, unable to deal with the discomfort of being unnecessary. For weak men, the idea of a woman being completely content alone is both puzzling and terrifying. It means they can't control the situation, and they can't validate themselves by saving someone. It's this challenge to their sense of importance that makes Sigma females' comfort in solitude so intimidating. To them, a Sigma female's ability to thrive alone means they are no longer needed to play a central role. And for weak men, that's not just uncomfortable, it's scary. If you're enjoying this content, don't forget to subscribe for more insights. Now, let's move on to the next point. 3. You define your own worth. Weak men look for women who depend on them for validation. They expect women to seek out their approval, to rely on them for a sense of self-worth, and to base their confidence on how they're treated. This dynamic feeds their ego and makes them feel powerful. It's an emotional crutch they've been conditioned to seek, and it's comfortable for them because it puts them in control. But Sigma females don't play into this. Sigma females are not looking for anyone to complete them or affirm their value. They've already built their self-worth from within, independent of anyone's opinions or judgments. From their own experiences, Sigma females understand that true confidence comes from within, not from the external validation of others. They know that their worth is not determined by how a man sees them, how many likes they get on a photo, or how much attention they attract. They define their own value. And that's where the disconnect happens. Weak men are often attracted to women who need them in some way, emotionally, socially, or financially, because it gives them a sense of power. It boosts their confidence to be the one that someone relies on, to be the provider of validation. But with Sigma females, that power dynamic is shattered. Sigma females don't need validation from weak men to feel good about themselves, which is something they can't understand. They are used to having their sense of worth tied to how they are perceived or treated by others. But Sigma females don't need anyone's approval to stand tall. It's not that they don't value feedback or constructive criticism. It's that they know their worth doesn't change based on other people's opinions. This level of self-assurance is unsettling because it forces weak men to confront their own insecurity. If a woman doesn't need their approval to feel confident, what does that mean for their role in her life? If she isn't looking for validation from them, where does that leave them? Weak men are used to playing a central role in a woman's emotional life. They want to be the ones to give affirmation, to be the reason she feels validated and worthy. But with Sigma females, that power is non-existent. Sigma females don't need anyone else to tell them they're enough. They already know, and that's what makes them so powerful. It's an energy that weak men can't deal with because it exposes their own vulnerabilities. They are often unsure of their own worth and depend on external sources, especially from women, to feel good about themselves. But Sigma females' strength and confidence come from within. When weak men are around someone who exudes this kind of self-assuredness, it threatens their fragile sense of self. It's a reminder that they can't control someone else's worth, and that realization is uncomfortable. Sigma females' ability to define their own value challenges the power structures that weak men are used to. It forces them to question their own self-worth and exposes how much they rely on external validation. For Sigma females, this isn't about arrogance. It's about the quiet confidence of knowing who they are and what they bring to the table. This independence from external validation isn't something weak men can handle, and it's one of the reasons they feel so threatened. Sigma females don't need them to feel whole, and that is a power weak men can't control. Do you agree with this idea of confidence? Drop a comment below and let me know your thoughts. Now, let's move to the next point. 4. Sigma females are individuals who operate independently and confidently, maintaining a strong sense of self-worth that is not contingent on their relationships with others. Unlike many individuals who derive a significant portion of their value from their romantic or social connections, Sigma females do not rely on these external sources for their emotional stability or self-esteem. They understand that their worth comes from within and is not dependent on the approval or validation of others, which is a powerful trait. This characteristic makes them appear unattainable and often unsettling to those who are used to seeking constant validation from their relationships. For weak men, who often rely on others for their sense of self-worth, this independent mindset can be a source of discomfort and fear. These men may have been conditioned to believe that their value is defined by their relationships, whether romantic or social, and seeing someone who doesn't need to depend on others for emotional support or validation can challenge their understanding of self-esteem. Sigma females, on the other hand, don't place their worth in the hands of others. They don't need to be in a relationship to feel whole, nor do they seek constant affirmation from their peers or loved ones to feel validated. This sense of self-sufficiency can be intimidating because it highlights the contrast between their internal strength and the external validation-seeking behavior of weak men. For many men, relationships are a way to feel important and loved, and when they encounter a Sigma female who remains grounded in herself without relying on these external sources, they may feel inadequate. The idea that someone could be so self-assured without needing others can challenge their insecurities and make them feel powerless. Furthermore, Sigma females tend to be emotionally independent, meaning they do not depend on others to regulate their emotions. This emotional autonomy can be perceived as a threat to weak men who might be more reliant on others to manage their emotional well-being. For these men, seeing a woman who is emotionally self-sufficient can feel like a direct challenge to their own vulnerability. Weak men may feel threatened by this independence because it represents a kind of strength they may not possess. The idea that someone, particularly a woman, could function fully without the support of others shakes the foundation of their beliefs about relationships. Additionally, Sigma females' lack of dependence on relationships often means they don't tolerate toxic dynamics or emotional manipulation. This makes them more difficult to control or influence. Weak men, who might typically try to manipulate or control their relationships to feel in charge, find this trait particularly difficult to deal with. They can't easily exploit a Sigma female's independence for their own gain, which can lead to feelings of frustration and fear. Ultimately, the lack of dependence on relationships that defines Sigma females makes them seem unattainable to those who rely heavily on others for emotional fulfillment. This unattainability and self-sufficiency can terrify weak men because they are faced with someone who doesn't need them or anyone else to feel complete. The Sigma female's ability to stand firm in her own identity without relying on romantic or social ties for validation serves as a reminder of how strong and self-sustaining a person can. 5. Sigma females are known for their minimal need for social approval, which sets them apart from many individuals who feel the pressure to conform to societal expectations or norms. Unlike those who constantly seek validation from others to feel accepted, Sigma females remain unaffected by the need to fit in or be accepted by mainstream society. This quality allows them to live authentically on their own terms without being concerned about the judgments of others. They are free to express themselves without worrying about meeting society's standards, which often involve trying to fit a certain mold, following trends, or adhering to prescribed roles. This refusal to conform makes them unpredictable and unmanageable, two traits that many weak men find difficult to cope with. Weak men often seek stability and control in their relationships and social interactions. They rely on the predictability of social structures and norms to feel secure, and anything that deviates from this predictable behavior can unsettle them. When they encounter a Sigma female who is not concerned with fitting into these structures, it can feel like a challenge to their sense of order and control. The unpredictability of a Sigma female's behavior and attitude is something that weak men may not know how to navigate. They are used to following established patterns and are often uncomfortable with individuals who break away from these norms. This discomfort stems from their own lack of confidence, as they tend to rely on social approval to affirm their position within society. When a Sigma female refuses to conform, it highlights their own insecurity and fear of being judged by others. For weak men, who often seek validation from their peers, social approval, or external sources to feel good about themselves, the independence of Sigma females can be frightening. They might perceive this lack of concern for approval as a direct challenge to their own self-worth. The more they try to control or understand a Sigma female's behavior, the more unpredictable she becomes, which only amplifies their sense of helplessness. Furthermore, weak men may attempt to manipulate or influence others to gain approval, but Sigma females are not easily influenced by external opinions. Their self-assuredness and confidence in their own choices make them impervious to the pressure of societal expectations. They don't feel the need to seek approval from others to validate their actions or decisions. This makes them hard to control or manipulate, qualities that weak men often struggle with. Sigma females live by their own rules and don't adhere to the typical expectations that others might follow. They are more likely to take risks, pursue unconventional paths, and embrace their individuality, which is a trait that can be both inspiring and intimidating. For weak men, who often feel the need to blend in and avoid standing out, this boldness can feel threatening. The Sigma female's ability to move through life without worrying about social judgment or approval reminds weak men of their own insecurities, making them feel small and insignificant in comparison. Ultimately, the minimal need for social approval that defines Sigma females creates an aura of independence and strength that weak men find difficult to understand. Their unpredictability, unwillingness to conform, and refusal to seek validation from others make them a source of fear and admiration. This fear arises from the realization that they are unable to control or influence a person who doesn't care about societal norms and expectations. 6. Sigma females possess a unique ability to lead without relying on force or overt control, which makes them stand out as natural leaders in any situation. Unlike individuals who believe leadership is about dominating others or asserting power through loud commands or forceful behavior, Sigma females understand that true leadership comes from setting an example and inspiring others through their actions. They do not seek to control or manipulate people into following them. Instead, they lead by demonstrating qualities such as integrity, confidence, and responsibility. This approach allows them to gain the respect and trust of those around them without needing to exert authority or impose their will on others. The influence they have is not derived from the need to dominate, but from the strength of their character and the power of their actions. This ability to lead through example rather than force can be deeply unsettling to weak men, as they often operate under the belief that leadership requires loudness, control, and external validation. Weak men may feel threatened by a Sigma female's quiet leadership because it challenges their conventional understanding of power and authority. For many men, leadership is about being noticed, commanding attention, and showing dominance in both words and actions. They might associate strength with loudness or aggression, believing that leadership requires an overt display of power to be effective. However, Sigma females defy these traditional notions by leading with grace, self-assurance, and consistency. Their leadership is not about boasting or making their presence known through forceful means. Instead, it's about inspiring others to follow their example without needing to demand it. This subtle yet powerful form of leadership can be intimidating to weak men because it undermines their belief that leadership requires external displays of power or control. In their eyes, a leader should be someone who commands attention and subordinates others. But a Sigma female proves that leadership can be quiet, humble, and still incredibly effective. Weak men may feel insecure in the presence of a Sigma female because they are unable to understand or replicate her leadership style. While they might rely on dominating conversations, showing off their achievements, or asserting authority to feel in control, a Sigma female's influence is rooted in her ability to lead by example and earn the respect of others through her actions. This approach to leadership is often more effective than overt displays of control, yet it can be difficult for weak men to grasp or appreciate. Moreover, Sigma females have the ability to remain calm and composed in challenging situations, and this inner strength often inspires others to follow them without needing to be commanded. This ability to lead without raising their voice or asserting power over others can make weak men feel powerless, as it challenges their understanding of how to achieve influence and authority. The quiet yet impactful way Sigma females lead also reveals the limitations of forceful leadership, and weak men may feel threatened by the realization that leadership is not about exerting control, but about inspiring others through integrity and authenticity. Ultimately, the Sigma female's ability to lead without force or dominance not only showcases her strength, but also serves as a reminder to weak men that true leadership is not about imposing power, but about leading by example and inspiring others to follow willingly. 7. Sigma females are known for their exceptional emotional control, which is one of their most striking and powerful traits. Unlike many individuals who openly display their emotions or wear their hearts on their sleeves, Sigma females tend to keep their feelings in check no matter the situation. They understand that emotions, while natural, do not always need to be expressed outwardly, especially in moments of stress or difficulty. Instead of reacting impulsively or allowing their emotions to dictate their actions, they approach challenges with a level-headed and calm demeanor. This ability to remain composed in the face of adversity is not only a reflection of their inner strength, but also a key factor in their ability to navigate difficult situations without being overwhelmed by emotions. For weak men, this emotional control can be unsettling, especially because they are often more emotionally reactive or insecure in challenging situations. While Sigma females are able to maintain their composure, many weak men are prone to emotional outbursts or feeling overwhelmed when faced with adversity. They may feel that emotions should be expressed, often in an exaggerated or dramatic way, believing that doing so is necessary to process or cope with their feelings. In contrast, the Sigma female's quiet strength and emotional control challenge this belief and show that it is possible to remain calm and rational, even in high-pressure moments. This can be deeply unsettling to weak men who may feel insecure about their own inability to maintain such composure. Weak men might view the Sigma female's emotional control as something unattainable and, in turn, feel inferior or weak in comparison. They may struggle with their own emotional responses and see the Sigma female's calmness as a reminder of their inability to keep their emotions in check. This difference in emotional regulation can highlight the insecurity and vulnerability that weak men feel, which is further exacerbated by the Sigma female's emotional stability. Additionally, the emotional control of Sigma females makes them incredibly effective in leadership roles or in situations that require clear, rational decision-making. They are able to remain focused on the task at hand without being distracted or swayed by their emotions. This trait makes them incredibly reliable in crisis situations, as they do not allow their personal feelings to interfere with their judgment. For weak men, who may often let their emotions cloud their decision-making or respond impulsively to situations, the Sigma female's composed nature can make them feel inadequate. This quiet, composed nature can be intimidating to those who struggle with emotional instability, as it underscores the power of remaining calm and centered, no matter what the situation may bring. 8. Sigma females are known for having high standards and firm boundaries, which serve as essential pillars in maintaining their emotional well-being and sense of self. They understand the importance of respecting their own needs and values, and they are not afraid to assert themselves when necessary. Whether it's in their personal relationships, professional life, or social interactions, Sigma females make it clear that they will not tolerate anything that undermines their principles or self-respect. This means they are willing to cut off toxic relationships or walk away from situations that no longer serve them, even if it means facing temporary discomfort or isolation. For Sigma females, maintaining their emotional health and integrity is far more important than staying in unhealthy relationships or environments that drain their energy. Their high standards ensure that they only invest time and energy into people, experiences, and situations that align with their values. This ability to set clear boundaries and enforce them without hesitation is a key aspect of their strength and independence. Weak men, on the other hand, often find this trait terrifying because they are accustomed to manipulating or taking advantage of people to get what they want. They thrive in situations where they can bend others to their will, whether through guilt, emotional manipulation, or subtle coercion. The presence of someone with strong boundaries disrupts their ability to control or influence, and this often leaves them feeling powerless. For weak men, Sigma females are a constant reminder that not everyone can be manipulated or taken advantage of. The thought that they cannot bend or push someone around to get their way is a source of deep frustration and fear. Weak men may try to test the boundaries of a Sigma female, only to find that she does not tolerate any form of disrespect or emotional manipulation. This refusal to tolerate toxic behavior makes Sigma females even more intimidating to weak men, as they understand that they are not dealing with someone who can easily be influenced or controlled. The ability to cut off toxic relationships without hesitation signals to weak men that Sigma females are in complete control of their lives and emotions. In conclusion, Sigma females are often perceived as both powerful and mysterious, not because they follow conventional norms or seek approval, but because they create their own path in life. Their strength lies in their ability to live authentically, maintaining unwavering confidence without needing the validation of others, setting clear boundaries that protect their emotional well-being, and leading by example rather than by force. These traits make them formidable, not only because they refuse to conform to societal expectations, but because they inspire those around them to do the same. Weak men, who rely on external validation, dominance, and emotional control, are often intimidated by the sheer self-sufficiency and calm assertiveness that Sigma females exude. This power is not the kind that screams for attention, but the kind that commands it silently, making it all the more compelling. The world of Sigma females is one of self-reliance, emotional intelligence, and profound inner strength. They aren't bothered by the chaos of others' opinions, nor do they crave the spotlight. Instead, they prefer to walk their own path, unbothered by the pressures of external forces. It's this very independence that weak men find difficult to handle. They seek approval and control, needing others to affirm their worth. But a Sigma female's self-assurance reminds them that true power comes from within, not from the validation or manipulation of others. This stark contrast often creates a sense of vulnerability in those who are less secure, forcing them to reckon with the realization that the things they rely on, external approval, dominance, and emotional control, are not the only ways to find strength. Sigma females do not need to prove their worth to anyone. Their actions speak louder than any boastful declaration or loud assertion of power. They lead quietly, calmly, and without arrogance, understanding that true leadership is not about making noise or forcing others into submission. Instead, it is about inspiring respect and admiration through consistent actions and integrity. Weak men may try to mimic this behavior, but they often find it difficult because it requires a level of emotional maturity, self-discipline, and inner peace that they have yet to develop. The quiet strength of a Sigma female disrupts their need for dominance and validation, making them question the very foundation of their own self-worth. At the heart of a Sigma female's power lies an understanding of emotional control and self-respect. They know the value of setting boundaries and maintaining high standards, not as a means of controlling others, but as a form of self-preservation. Their refusal to tolerate toxicity, whether in relationships or in life, forces others to confront their own weaknesses and insecurities. Sigma females are not afraid to walk away from people or situations that do not align with their values, and this independence can be unsettling for those who feel the need to cling to unhealthy dynamics for fear of being alone or rejected. For weak men, this refusal to be manipulated or controlled presents a challenge. They may feel threatened because they rely on external forces to define their value, and the Sigma female's ability to remain grounded in her own worth forces them to acknowledge their own vulnerabilities. In a world that often rewards loudness, dominance, and emotional reactivity, Sigma females show that true strength lies in quiet self-assurance, emotional regulation, and the courage to walk alone if necessary. It is this very independence and emotional intelligence that make them a force to be reckoned with, and for those who seek power through manipulation, dominance, or approval, they are a reminder that strength comes not from controlling others, but from mastering oneself. Ultimately, the power of Sigma females is in their ability to live life on their own terms, unaffected by the judgments or expectations of others. They don't need anyone's approval to feel confident or validated, and they are not afraid to walk away from anything or anyone that doesn't serve their best interests. This self-reliance and inner strength make them stand out in a world that often rewards conformity and loud displays of power. To those who are still learning to value themselves from within, Sigma females serve as a powerful reminder that true strength is not about dominating others, but about mastering yourself and living authentically, regardless of what the world may expect.